It's about that time. The Grand Prix de Horlogerie de Genève, GPHG. Now this is different from like Watches and Wonders or Basel World. Who remembers Basel World? I am so f***ing old. This isn't just like showcasing watches, this is actually where the hoitiest of toitiest come together and actually judge these watches and give them awards. Now, the finalists of the 2025 GPHG competition or awards ceremony, they've been announced. Now, I'm choosing not all of them, but just my favorites out of the current finalists. Now, keep in mind, you can go to gphg.org or actually Hodinkee and see all the watches. I've just chosen the ones that I think are really, really impressive, and we're gonna go over them today. I'm actually wearing a watch, this Sega Designs, that has actually won a GPHG award a couple years ago, and I've done a review on this. I'll link the review on this watch down below, but it's very, very cool, and this is just a little taste of the very high-end, interesting watches that you will see on today's episode. So let's go ahead and get into it. It is 2:06 p.m. Let's get down to business. Please stay tuned to the end of the episode because you're gonna find out how you could walk away with a brand new Rolex Wimbledon with that fluted bezel and a Rolex Sprite. Sound too good to be true? You'll see. Okay guys, so the first finalist watch we're gonna go over is actually from one of my favorite watchmakers, Laurent Ferrier. Now, this is a very high-end watchmaker that most people don't really talk about, and it makes sense because, you know, these higher-end independents, unless you have the money to wear one or you have the money to hang out with people who wear one, you're probably not going to see one in the wild. It just is what it is. And Laurent Ferrier, they make a lot of very sleek watches. I will say almost akin to like H. Moser. They have that sleekness, that subtlety, but that very sharpness as well. And this classic Auto Horizon has almost what I would call a denim dial, but it is, in fact, I believe, translucent blue lacquer. Vertical satin is what they call it. And it is such a nice watch. These crazy louvered cuts that they utilize. This isn't only on this watch. Laurent Ferrier does this almost with all of their date complications. Again, that adds that sleek slope, and it almost draws your attention to that date window without being, super, I don't know, in your face and out of place. It's kind of a very nice transition into that date window. You're getting hours, minutes, seconds, and date, utilizing, let's see, their self-winding mechanical 72-hour power reserve. Interesting. 28,800 VPH movement, and it has a 30-meter water resistance at 40 millimeters. Very, very nice. It has that LF 270-01 caliber, again, in-house. This isn't going to be the only time you see Laurent Ferrier on this list. Moving on to Chopard. This L.U.C. Lunar 1, man, I'm a sucker for salmon dials, period, but something about all the different textures. You know, I think it was much more subtle with the Laurent Ferrier we just took a look at, but with this Lunar 1, it's definitely much more apparent, much busier. First of all, you're getting deep set cut sub-registers, right? Everything from the lunar dial all the way to the day and the 24-hour dial all the way to the month. It is very, very deep set with those sub-registers. And then you're getting all these different groove patterns on the main dial. It's just crazy because you can see it's not a totally linear groove. This isn't like a symmetrical guilloche. You can see here it's much broader, the spacing, and then down below, I would say on the underside of the 9 to the 3, it's much busier, right? Much tighter grooves. And I think it's really nice with the big date up top. We can see that beautiful movement with that micro rotor. I think it's awesome. This has, of course, also a 30-meter water resistance rating. These aren't sports watches for the most part, guys. Hand guilloché 18-karat ethical gold. That's what the dial finish is, but we'll just call it salmon. Let's see. You are getting a 65-hour power reserve, 28,800 VPH movement. And where is 40.5 millimeters? Very, very nice. And white gold. What was did I say what this one was? Yeah, this is steel, the Laurent Ferrier. So the Chopard is white gold. And I think white gold and salmon go hand in hand, especially when we're thinking of like watches like that datograph. Ooh, that Longa datograph with the white gold and the salmon. Oh, it's a grail that will always be a grail. Who knows, someday. When I win the lotto. Right? Okay, so the first two watches were like, I guess if you could call them conventional. They're much more conventional than this Bulgari MB&F collaboration. Now, when you think Serpenti, you might think Bulgari, right, with the Octo Finissimo, and they have all these different, serpent patterns and designs. But then when you see something that looks like a literal spaceship, like something from Capsule Corp or something, you think MB&F, right? So this Bulgari x MB&F collaboration, known as the Serpenti, red gold, interesting. Green hour and minute domes, 30-meter water resistance rating, 39 by 53. This has a manual wind mechanical with a power reserve of 45 hours, 18,000 VPH movement. We haven't seen one of those here. This is hyper limited at 33 pieces, 164,300 Swiss francs. This is not an inexpensive watch. Insane. Why did I choose this? Well, it's funny. When we look at the Laurent Ferrier, I can say I really like it because it's sleek, it's smooth, and it has that almost denim dial that looks really cool. And that louvered cut, it's just very Laurent Ferrier. And if you know about that brand and you enjoy their design language that you see throughout their catalog, you can see why this is very in line with their typical design language. Then this Chopard, you can see, salmon dial, big date, nice complications, some symmetry here, but also it is a bit busy, but I think in a very palatable way. But these are much more conventional. What can you say about this watch? Because, you show some people this thing, and aside from it being on your wrist, it doesn't really look like a watch. Like, how do you tell the time with this thing? Well, I would say that this looks just so out there. It looks like it'll open up and some random alien species will just jump out at you, right? I'm expecting like a face hugger to jump out of this thing. It just looks so cool. And then when you get the name, Serpenti, right? A serpent or something. You can see the eyes here on both sides. Maybe the serpent's forehead here and the brain of it being the mainspring. It's just very cool. I just think it's cool. And I know some people will look at this and think, man, that's ugly. I don't know. But come on. MB&F is known for these kind of off-the-wall, hyper-futuristic, weird watches. And I'm going to be honest, when I was looking at the finalist list, my eyes just kind of locked onto this one. And I think it'd be a disservice not to add it to the list. But it's kind of hard to explain why I like it. I also think the red, gold, and the green, very nice touch. Moving on to something that is also, very much asymmetrical, but much more conventional than that last watch we took a look at. The Arnold Son Constant Force Tourbillon 11. Beautiful watch. I would say I'm a fan of things like, Glashütte and their Panel Lunarmatic, those types of watches that do have a small time-telling dial and something offset, I'm okay with that. And if it's done well, and I know this is kind of a subjective statement, but if it's done well, then it's done well. And if it ain't, right? So, again, this whole video is just one idiot's opinion. Actually, it's a few idiots' opinions, because these are finalists that I did not choose. I am just pulling from the finalists list and picking my favorites. But again, you guys in the comments, let me know what you think should be on today's list. But yeah, this is a very nice clean dial. I really like, this is an enamel dial, by the way. And of course, it's just so clean. I think it looks very, very cool. And although it's asymmetrical, I would not consider it busy. Some other watches that do these offset time-telling dishes, as I call them, they're very busy, a ton going on. No, this is just a small time-telling dial and then a tourbillon. And I think it looks so cool. And again, I love the Roman numerals. I love the blued handset. I think it's very cool. The blued screw heads. It's gorgeous. 41.5 millimeters, yellow gold. So kind of traditional in that way. Manual wind, power reserve, 100 hours. You are a winner. I think that might be the largest power reserve on today's list. Very, very cool. Yeah, it is a gorgeous watch and very different. And then when you turn it around, you look at that movement and it's insane. It looks really cool. So some of these high-end independents, man, are just freaky deaky. But yeah, gorgeous. Another one that is crazy when we're talking about small time-telling dials. Oh wait, we didn't go over the price. I'm actually interested in the price of this. 129,800 Swiss francs. Even more limited than that Bulgari MB&F collaboration. This is limited to 11 pieces. Crazy. You know what's weird? This is limited to 11 pieces. The Bulgari is limited to 33. But this Arnold Son is like around 33 grand less expensive. Interesting. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Armin Strom and their dual-time GMT Resonance Manufacture Edition. This is so cool. I think some people would look at this and think that it is incredibly ugly. Double barrel, 42-hour power reserve. I think they could have gone for more, but obviously this isn't double barrel for one time-telling dial. This is, I think, each dial obviously has its own barrel. Very, very cool. I like that you can see what's going on here. I like that it has essentially 24-hour indicators with that sun on both dials. You can obviously call it GMT. Instead of having a GMT hand, they were like, F it. We are going to have a totally separate dial to track a different time zone. Very, very cool. 50 meter water resistance rating on this one. 95,000 Swiss francs, limited to 50 pieces. I really like the texturing here. I like that it is kind of slate and black, kind of darker tones going on with this one. Steel case. I guess this is kind of, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Very similar to that Bulgari MB&F. I think some people might look at this and be like, well, that's really cool. And some people might look at this and be like, it kind of looks like a bug. Because I get that too. Kind of, these two dials kind of look like a fly or something. But come on, I don't think anything's as weird as this one. So yeah, very, very cool, though. This has to be on the list, for me, at least. This Angelus. Why is this on? Well, this is a Monopusher. This is a mono-push chronograph. And I believe numerous watchmakers have explained to me that mono-pushers are actually more difficult to produce. Which is weird, because I think the first chronographs essentially were like mono-pushers. I don't know. It's crazy, right? When people think Monopusher, they think the Cartier Tortue Monopusher, which is probably the most famous mono-push chronograph. This looks incredibly vintage. Also much less expensive than other watches on this list. Still very expensive, though. 32,300 Swiss francs, limited to 15 pieces. 42-hour power reserve. Yellow gold. has a white nickel dial. And this, if you told me, was from 1947, I would say, yep. But it's not. That's crazy. It looks so vintage. Until you turn it around. Then you realize this is like a current made watch. But as a vintage nut, man, this makes me hot and heavy, guys. This might be the best watch on the list, honestly. It is gorgeous. Tell me what you think about this. Do you think that this is too hacky, playing off like the vintage vibes? Or do you agree with me? This deserves to be here. Moving on to another Laurent Ferrier, and what did I tell you about their kind of very consistent design language? When we're talking about, integrated bracelet sports watches, people bring up everything from the Holy Trinity, and then when you're like, whoa, let's lower the price tag, people think of like the Tissot PRX. Guys, there's something that no one's ever brought up, and it's the Sport Auto 79 from Laurent Ferrier with this gorgeous, again, louvered cut. Very sleek, sharp handset. Very smooth going in. They were like, oh, you angular bezel industrial guys? Yeah, how about something sensual? Shaped, dare I say, like a woman. Oh! Very sexy, very sleek, very smooth. We turn it around, and again, gorgeous movements. Their movements, Laurent Ferrier, I just love it, and I can't explain why. It is, they're just the sleekest. They're the sleekest watchmaker out there, and they don't get enough praise because not a lot of people know about them. And I'm sure that Laurent Ferrier is happy about that. They want to be very exclusive. Again, this is red gold case, red gold bracelet. 85,399 Swiss francs, 120 meter water resistance rating. So this is something that's competing with the Longa Odysseus, things like that. And man, I think this crushes it, to be honest. I think it's gorgeous. And honestly, if they came out with one of these on a distressed like leather strap to compete with something like an Odysseus, I think that this would absolutely slap, but on a red gold bracelet, it's just a lot, and I love it. Will I ever own one? Probably not, but gorgeous, gorgeous watch. Let's move into something a little bit more accessible, yeah? The Christopher Wood London C12 Loco! Ay, Dios mío! Naranja. Okay, the dial is naranja. It's orange. And Loco it is. We've reviewed a couple Chris Ward 12s on this channel. Big fan of Chris Ward. Big fan of the 12 series. This is 4,195 Swiss francs. Not a cheap watch, but it's like butter pittance compared to other watches on the list. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous watch. We're looking at a 144-hour power reserve. I was wrong. 144-hour power reserve. Chris Ward wins when it comes to power reserve. The other one was 100. Chris just spat in your face, boy! 144-hour power reserve. Crazy. 30-meter water resistance rating. 41-millimeter case. Steel and rubber. If you haven't seen my Chris Ward reviews, check them out. Again, when we're looking at independence, they give you so much bang per buck. Chris Ward is just swanging from the fences. I will say in the last 2 years, Chris Ward was coming for the high-end market's throats. They're crushing it. And when we're looking at the specs here, I agree. This one is loco muy muy. Ay, 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 papi. Ay, que rico. Next. By the way, I can say that because my middle name is Fernando. Jory Fernando Goodman. I'm not kidding. So I can be as racist as I want to them Hispanics, because I am one. ¿Sabes que you know what? Anyway. The Beda'a Eclipse. I don't even know about this brand. I've never heard of them. But I looked at this watch and I was like, hold on, this thing is badass. Only 2,000 Swiss francs. This is the most affordable watch on the list. Linky heard me speaking my native tongue of Spanish. I speak Spanish. And I'm talking Spain Spanish. No Mexico. Okay, no Mexico Spanish. I speak Spain Spanish. Okay! Turned into Al Pacino there. Big ass! For those of you who get the reference, comment down below. Yeah, this is the most accessible watch on the list, and I think it's probably one of the most interesting. Obviously, you're getting steel. At this price range, you're probably not getting precious metal. 30-meter water resistance rating. Also the most, I would say, I don't want to say preferential size, but very, you know, a lot of watches now have inched up bigger. And this at 37 millimeters, I think is more versatile than people would think on paper. Because of how prevalent watches in the plus 40 millimeter range have gotten, people see something in the 30s and they think, oh, it's going to look like a little postage stamp on my wrist. That's not the case, guys. But it is something to take into consideration. 37 millimeters, only 8.1 millimeters thick. That's insane. It's a automatic with a 56-hour power reserve. That's nothing to slouch at. Hours, minutes, and seconds. Very, very interesting. Man, if I could get a hold of one of these to review, I would love to get my hands on one of these, but I think it's very interesting. And this is the type of stuff you see at GPHG. I think it's really cool. And we will see who gets the awards. Again, I am wearing a watch that has won a GPHG award a couple years ago. But, you know, they bring you the most interesting of the interesting, and then they choose the winners out of that bunch. And out of that bunch, the finalists currently, I've chosen my picks. You go ahead, check out the watches that you think should win, and which watches you would put on your list. But I think we took a look at some crazy watches today, boy. So there you have it, guys. Some truly insane watches. And yeah, I think what's cool about GPHG is that they kind of do span the price range, because you see some that are specifically at 3,000 Swiss francs or less. And then, of course, you see a bunch that are well above that. I want you to comment below, which watch did you see today that's your favorite? And if you go to gphg.org and you see all the finalists, which one is your top contender, period? And guys, I couldn't have made this episode without today's sponsor, Wolf Watch Club. Now, I mentioned earlier that you could walk away with a Rolex Wimbledon with that fluted bezel and potentially a Rolex Sprite GMT. This is an insane competition, and guys, this Sunday, I'm going to be announcing the winner of that Rolex Wimbledon right here on the Time Teller channel, and then at the end of this month, one of you could be walking away with that Rolex Sprite GMT. So two insane heavy hitters, and they're up for grabs only at wolfwatchclub.com. So click the link in the description below, tell them I sent you, and don't miss out. All right, guys, another episode in the books. I will catch you later. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.